They said she was easy. The single dad made them eat their words. The first time Daniel heard them say it, he felt it like a slap across his own face. It wasn't whispered. It wasn't subtle. It was cruel, careless laughter drifting across the school parking lot as parents waited to pick up their children. A group of mothers stood near the gates, designer handbags on their arms, their voices sharp and confident. And in the middle of their gossip was her name. They said she was easy. They said she bounced from job to job because she didn't want to work hard. They said she smiled too much at men. They said she was raising her little boy alone because no decent man had stayed. Daniel hadn't meant to listen. But when he saw her standing a few feet away pretending not to hear, her shoulders stiff, her fingers gripping her son's backpack a little too tightly, something inside him shifted. Before we go further, if you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in standing up for people when the world tries to tear them down, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this matter, because people like her matter. Daniel Reyes was a single father who knew what it felt like to be talked about. His wife had passed away 3 years earlier after a sudden illness, leaving him with a 5-year-old daughter named Lily and a heart that felt permanently cracked. He had learned how to braid hair from YouTube videos, how to pack lunches shaped like stars, and how to smile at school events even when the empty chair beside him felt louder than the crowd. He also knew what it felt like to be judged. They had said he couldn't raise a little girl alone. They had said he worked too much as a mechanic. They had said he was trying too hard. So when he heard them label her, something in him refused to stay silent. Her name was Maya Thompson. She was new in town, renting a small apartment above a bakery. She had a son named Noah, a quiet 7-year-old with wide eyes and a habit of standing slightly behind her, as if he had learned early in life that the world wasn't always gentle. Daniel first noticed her weeks earlier when Lily insisted on sitting next to Noah during art class pickup. The two children had bonded over crayons and dinosaurs, and soon Daniel and Maya found themselves exchanging polite nods that slowly turned into cautious smiles. She had tired eyes but a warm presence. She laughed easily with her son. She always thanked the crossing guard. She carried herself like someone who had been through storms and refused to let them define her. But the rumors moved faster than truth ever does. It started small. Mothers stopped inviting her to birthday parties. A few parents subtly pulled their husbands closer when she walked by, as if she were some kind of threat. Daniel even overheard one man joke that she was probably looking for a rich replacement. The worst part wasn't the words. It was the way Maya pretended not to hear them. Daniel watched her endure it in silence. He saw how she walked with her chin high but her eyes dimmer each day. He saw how Noah became quieter, more withdrawn. Children are cruel in the way they repeat what they hear at home. One afternoon, Daniel found Lily crying because another girl had told her she wasn't allowed to play with Noah since his mom is that kind of woman. That night, Daniel lay awake staring at the ceiling, anger pulsing under his skin. He had built a life around protecting his daughter from unnecessary pain. But now someone else's child was being wounded because adults couldn't control their tongues. He decided he wouldn't stay quiet. The opportunity came sooner than he expected. The school announced a weekend fundraising fair to renovate the playground. Parents were encouraged to volunteer. Booths needed organizing. Donations needed collecting. It was the kind of event where the so-called respectable families shone brightest, their names attached to banners and sponsorship signs. When Daniel signed up, he noticed Maya's name on the volunteer list too. The day of the fair dawned bright and windy. Tents flapped against metal poles, and the scent of popcorn drifted across the field. Daniel arrived early with Lily, setting up the ring toss booth he had been assigned. Across the grass, he saw Maya struggling to assemble a small face painting station by herself. No one else stood beside her. The same group of mothers who had gossiped weeks earlier were clustered at the bake sale booth, laughing loudly. Not one offered to help her. Daniel walked over without hesitation. He didn't make a grand announcement. He didn't glare at anyone. He simply picked up the folding table, tightened its loose hinge, and began helping her arrange the paints. Their eyes met briefly, and for the first time he saw something raw there, a flicker of gratitude mixed with exhaustion. Throughout the morning, Daniel noticed something else. Every time a child approached her booth, Maya knelt down to their level. She asked what they liked. She listened. She painted delicate butterflies and superheroes with steady hands. She spoke softly, with patience that felt endless. And slowly, a line began to form. Parents who had avoided her found themselves standing awkwardly as their children begged for her designs. They couldn't deny her talent. They couldn't deny the joy on their kids' faces. Around noon, an unexpected storm rolled in. The sky darkened suddenly, and a sharp gust of wind tore through the field. Tents began to collapse. Decorations scattered like frightened birds. Panic spread fast. One of the metal poles from a larger booth snapped loose, swinging dangerously toward a group of children near the inflatable slide. Chaos erupted in screams and frantic movement. Daniel didn't think. He ran. But he wasn't the first to reach them. Maya was already there. She had dropped her paints and sprinted across the grass. Without hesitation, she shielded two children with her own body, pulling them down just as the pole crashed against the ground where they had been standing seconds earlier. The impact knocked her sideways. She hit the wet grass hard, her elbow scraping against gravel. But the children were unharmed. Everything went quiet for a moment. Rain began to fall, slow and heavy. Daniel reached her and helped her sit up. Mud streaked her jeans. Blood trickled down her forearm. Yet her first words weren't about herself. She was checking on the children, brushing their hair from their faces, asking if they were scared. The same mothers who had whispered about her stood frozen nearby, shock written across their features. It's easy to gossip when there's no cost. It's harder to look someone in the eye after they've just risked themselves for your child. The storm passed quickly, but something else had shifted. Over the next week, the story spread, not as rumor, but as truth. Parents talked about how she had reacted without hesitation. Teachers praised her bravery. The school principal publicly thanked her in the newsletter. But what mattered most wasn't the recognition. It was the change in how people looked at her. Daniel noticed it first at pickup. The women who had once turned away now offered tentative smiles. One even apologized, her voice barely above a whisper. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't cinematic. It was awkward and imperfect. But it was real. Maya didn't gloat. She didn't demand anything. She simply continued being who she had always been. One evening, weeks later, Daniel found himself sitting on a park bench while Lily and Noah chased each other across the grass. The sun dipped low, painting the sky in golden rose. Maya sat beside him, her elbow healed, her expression softer than he had ever seen it. They talked about small things at first, work, children, how exhausting life could be. Then the truth slowly surfaced. She told him about leaving an emotionally abusive marriage. About rebuilding her life from scratch in a town where no one knew her story. About how easy it was for people to assume the worst when they didn't understand the scars someone carried. Daniel listened. He didn't try to fix it. He didn't offer empty reassurances. He simply listened, the way he had once wished someone would listen to him when grief felt suffocating. That was the night he realized something important. Strength isn't loud. It isn't flashy. It doesn't come wrapped in perfection. Strength looks like a woman standing alone in a parking lot pretending not to cry. Strength looks like protecting children who aren't even your own. Strength looks like rebuilding after being broken. And sometimes, strength needs someone to stand beside it. Their friendship grew slowly, like something fragile that refused to be rushed. They shared coffee on busy mornings. They helped each other with school projects. The children grew inseparable. The rumors faded, not because everyone suddenly became kind, but because the truth had made them uncomfortable. Months later, at another school event, Daniel overheard a new parent ask quietly about Maya. There was hesitation in the question, curiosity shaped by half-heard stories. Before anyone else could answer, one of the same mothers who had once mocked her spoke firmly. "She's one of the strongest women I know," she said. "She saved my daughter." Daniel felt a quiet satisfaction settle in his chest. They had said she was easy. They had said she was trouble. They had said she was looking for attention. But in the end, the only thing she had been looking for was peace. And the single dad who knew what it felt like to be judged had simply refused to let lies win. If this story has touched your heart so far, if it reminds you of someone who deserves a second chance, please take a moment to like the video, share it, and subscribe. Your support keeps stories like this alive. And before we reach the final moments, I want to ask you something important. Please comment the word, respect, if you believe no one should be judged by rumors alone. Let's fill the comment section with a reminder that character is proven through actions, not whispers. A year after the storm, the playground stood fully renovated. Bright slides curved against the sky. Fresh paint gleamed under sunlight. A small plaque near the entrance thanked all volunteers, but Daniel noticed something else. Children ran freely. Laughter echoed without tension. Maya stood watching Noah climb the tallest structure, her face lifted to the sun. Daniel stood beside her, Lily's hand tucked into his. There were still challenges. Life hadn't magically become perfect. Bills still needed paying. Some people still judged quietly. Healing was ongoing, but something fundamental had changed. Maya no longer walked with her shoulders braced for impact. She walked knowing that truth, given time, reveals itself. Daniel glanced at her and realized that sometimes the bravest thing a person can do isn't grand or dramatic. Sometimes it's as simple as standing beside someone when the world tries to push them down. They had said she was easy. But what they really meant was that it was easy to misunderstand her. And the single dad who had once been misunderstood himself made sure they would never forget the difference. If this story moved you, even a little, don't scroll away without letting us know. Like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe for more stories that remind us what real strength looks like. Because kindness may not always be loud. But in the end, it always speaks louder than gossip.